It started with the window. That one, cracked just slightly open, in the old white house at the end of Wilshire Street. Nobody ever noticed it until they did, and once they did, they couldn't unsee it. The house had been abandoned for years, ever since Mrs. Helen Margrave was found dead on her own porch, dressed in black, barefoot, her head tilted to the side as if still listening for something. They said she'd gone mad after her husband died in the war, that she'd never left the house again except to water dead flowers. I was 8 when I saw her for the first time, or thought I did. My parents had just moved us in across the street, and Wilshire was quiet, the way most suburban streets are when the sun starts to bleed out of the sky. But that house, the Margrave house, always had a shade of gray to it, even in summer. My brother told me it was cursed, that no one dared enter it. I thought he was being dramatic. Then came the whispers. They didn't sound like words, more like sighs, gentle at first, like someone breathing behind glass. I heard them every time I played outside past sunset. I thought it was the wind, until the night I saw the curtain in the cracked window shift by itself. No breeze, no movement anywhere else, just that one ghostly flutter of faded lace. I told my parents. They didn't believe me. Said it was an animal, a bird maybe. But there was no bird. There was only that feeling, like something was watching, waiting, listening. It was my brother who dared me to go in. He bet me $5 I wouldn't, said I was a coward. So I waited. Until the night of the storm, when the street lights went out and the sky cracked open with lightning like an angry god. That's when I crossed the street, heart thundering louder than the rain. The door opened before I touched it. Inside, everything smelled like old paper and soil. The floor creaked like it was speaking in code, and the photographs, dozens of them, lined the hallway, all of them in black and white, all of them of the same man, a soldier. I walked slowly past them, each photo growing more decayed, his eyes less human with every frame. That's when I heard it, a soft sobbing, from upstairs. I ran. I wish I hadn't, because when I turned around just before the door slammed shut behind me, I saw her. Not a ghost, not quite human either. She stood at the top of the stairs, veil over her face, dress soaked through with something dark. Her hand lifted slowly. She pointed at me, and she whispered my name. That was just the beginning. For the next 3 nights, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. The veil, the soaked dress, the sound of her voice crawling through my ears like a whisper from beneath the earth. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't speak of the house. I didn't even look out the window. But that didn't stop her, because on the 4th night, the sobbing started again. Not from her house, from mine. At first I thought it was my mother, but the sound was too dry, too far away, like it was coming from inside the walls. I pressed my ear to the floor. Nothing. I checked the vents. Nothing. But when I opened my closet, I swear, I saw a black veil hanging just above my shirts. I blinked, and it was gone. My brother said I was losing it. He laughed, told me to stop watching scary movies. But I hadn't watched anything. I hadn't read anything. I hadn't even dared to think. That's what she wanted. Silence, fear, obedience. I started keeping a notebook, writing everything I saw, every movement, every whisper. On the 7th night, I saw her again, this time from my own window.
She was standing across the street behind her cracked curtain. But she wasn't just standing. She was mimicking me. Every movement, every breath. She raised her hand, I raised mine. She tilted her head, I tilted mine. But then she stopped and kept her head tilted, and her hand raised, and her mouth opened, and the window fogged up. I stared frozen as one word slowly appeared on the glass, written in long, jagged strokes from the inside. Come. I dropped to the floor, crawled under my bed. I don't know how long I stayed there, hours maybe. Time felt like it had stopped, but I could hear her now, whispering something over and over. My name, and something else. It sounded like soon. That night, I dreamed of drowning, but not in water, in dirt. Cold, wet, heavy soil packing into my mouth, eyes, ears until I couldn't scream. I woke up with soil under my fingernails, and I hadn't left my room. I stopped going to school. I stopped talking. My parents called it a phase, said I was just adjusting to the move, but I knew better. Every shadow in my room stretched longer than it should. Every mirror in the house seemed to fog, even when there was no heat. And every night, at exactly 3:07 a.m., I heard her whispering my name. My notebook was filling up fast. I drew her face over and over, though I never saw it, not truly. I drew what I felt, the veil, the black tears, the cracked lips moving without breath. On the 10th night, I found muddy footprints in our hallway. My parents blamed me, but I hadn't left my room. The prints went from the front door to my bedroom door and stopped. I locked my door after that. I pushed my dresser against it, but the whispers came from the inside now. One morning I woke up, and my closet door was wide open. My shirts were gone. In their place hung a single black dress. It looked exactly like hers. I burned it, or at least I tried. But when I opened the trash can the next day, it was back, neatly folded and damp. I knew I needed help. So I went to the library, the real one, downtown. I searched every archive I could find about Helen Margrave, and what I found made my skin crawl. She wasn't just a widow. She wasn't just mourning. She was a member of something called the Veiled Communion, a group of war widows who believed their husbands' spirits had been trapped in enemy soil. They practiced rituals, tried to bring their soldiers back. None of them succeeded, except maybe her. Her husband's body was never found, but witnesses claimed they saw him years later through her windows, standing beside her, motionless, smiling. The article ended abruptly, torn, missing pages. I asked the librarian if anyone else had checked it out recently. She said yes. A woman, pale, in a black veil. That night, I found a letter under my pillow. It was written in my own handwriting. I don't remember writing it, but it said, "I will come to you now. Do not resist. I'm already inside." I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I lay in bed, eyes wide open, afraid to blink. Every creak of the house sounded like footsteps. Every shift of wind against the window made my breath hitch. I clutched the letter in my hand, its edges damp with sweat. I wanted to tear it apart, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. It felt like a contract, like breaking it might make things worse. At 3:07 a.m., the closet opened again, not with a creak, but a slow, dragging groan like something heavy was moving inside. I sat up, staring at the darkness, and I saw her. Not fully, just a shape, a silhouette draped in black, the veil like smoke around her head. She didn't move, neither did I. We stayed like that for what felt like hours. Then she whispered, "You are ready," and disappeared. I ran to my parents' room, but they weren't there. Their bed was made, cold, empty. I checked every room in the house. No sign of them, no car in the driveway. It was like they had never existed. My brother's room was untouched, but the pictures on his wall had changed. Every family photo, gone, replaced with images of her, the widow, standing closer and closer to the camera in each frame. One of them showed her standing in our kitchen, another at the foot of my bed. I screamed and threw the pictures across the room, but they reappeared, neatly arranged again, moments later. I ran outside. The neighborhood was quiet, too quiet. No lights, no movement. Every house was dark, except hers, the Margrave house. Its upstairs window glowed a soft, sickly yellow, and in it I saw movement. Not her, him, the soldier, standing behind the curtain, watching, smiling. His eyes were hollow, black pits. I turned and ran, but every corner I took, every turn, led me back to that same house. My feet were moving, but the world wasn't. I was stuck, trapped in a loop, and the glow from her window got brighter each time, closer. I collapsed on the sidewalk, sobbing, when I heard a voice behind me, deep, calm, not hers, his. He said, "The veil is thin now. You see what she sees. You feel what she felt. Soon you will be part of us." I turned around, and there was nothing there, just fog, rolling in like smoke. I don't remember getting back inside, but I woke up on the floor of my room, the letter clutched in my hand. Only now there were more words written on it, and they were mine. But I never wrote them. They said, "I saw through her eyes, and now she sees through mine." The day didn't come. Not really. The sky stayed gray, like it forgot how to shine. My phone had no signal. Every clock in the house blinked 3:07. The refrigerator was filled with old food I didn't recognize. My face in the mirror looked pale and stretched, older. And the whispers, God, the whispers, they were louder now, echoing even during the day. I tried to record them. My phone screen stayed black. My camera wouldn't open. Everything around me was degrading, like the world was rotting from the inside out. I left the house again, but this time the street was gone. Only rows and rows of Margrave houses stretched endlessly in every direction, each one identical, each one staring back at me with hollow windows. I screamed. No one came. My voice didn't echo. I was alone, inside something, like a dream that couldn't be escaped. I returned home, or what used to be home, and there was a package waiting at the door, wrapped in black cloth. No address, no name. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a mirror, old, cracked, the frame carved with symbols I'd seen in the library archives, veiled communion symbols.
I looked into it. At first, I saw nothing. Then, slowly, her face came into view. Not behind me, inside me. My reflection blinked when I didn't. It smiled when I cried. The mirror shattered, not from me, but from the inside. Glass exploded outward, slicing my cheek. Blood dripped, and in it, I saw her words again. One more veil to lift. I passed out. When I woke, I was in the Margrave house, not mine, hers. The wallpaper was peeling, and the floor was covered in wilted flowers. I heard the soldiers' boots pacing upstairs, and beneath that, her lullaby, hummed, slow, sweet, terrifying. I stepped forward. The house groaned. The door behind me vanished. I was inside now, not just the house, her memory, her ritual, her grief, and she was waiting upstairs for me. The stairs seemed longer than they should have been. With every step upward, the air thickened as if I were moving through water. The lights flickered, dim bulbs that gave off a sickly green hue, humming like a dying insect. I gripped the rail, feeling it pulse beneath my fingers, alive somehow. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched out into darkness, broken only by the faint sound of that lullaby, still humming. Each door I passed had something carved into it, symbols, words I couldn't read. One of them hissed when I touched the knob. Another bled from the keyhole. I didn't stop. I couldn't. The final door at the end stood open slightly, a golden light spilling from the crack like honey mixed with rot. I pushed it open. Inside, the room was empty, at first. Just dust, old furniture, broken glass. Then I saw her. Not the way I had before, not a shadow or a whisper, but full, standing in front of the vanity, her veil lifted. Her face was not decayed or monstrous. It was worse. It was familiar. It was mine. She turned slowly. Her eyes were black, bottomless wells of grief and rage. Her mouth moved, and though I heard nothing, I understood everything. This was never about haunting. It was inheritance. She hadn't chosen me. I had always belonged to her. A legacy passed down, not by blood, but by sorrow. I tried to scream, but my voice dissolved into dust. She reached out, and I felt my limbs freeze. My body moved toward her, unwilling. We stood face to face, mirror images, and she placed her hands on my shoulders. "Now you see," she said. Her voice was the sound of old wood snapping. "Now you understand." I closed my eyes, praying I'd wake up, but when I opened them, I wasn't in the room anymore. I was in the photograph, black and white, framed on the wall. I could see the hallway outside it. I could see the next visitor approaching, and I knew soon they would hear the whispers, too. Time inside the frame did not flow, it pulsed, a constant pressure behind my eyes, a hum like thousands of dead voices vibrating against glass. I couldn't move, not truly. I could blink, I could breathe, but every movement echoed as if I were submerged in invisible syrup. Outside, the hallway remained empty until it wasn't. A boy, maybe 13, stepped into view, drawn forward by something unseen. His steps were hesitant, like he could feel it too, that tug, that terrible pull. I wanted to scream, to warn him, but the frame would not allow it. My mouth refused to open. My limbs stayed locked in their portrait prison.
The boy reached the door, the same one I had opened, and paused. For a moment, I hoped he would turn around, that he would leave, but the door creaked wider and light spilled over him. As he stepped inside, I felt a sharp pain across my chest, as though someone had etched a new line into the glass I was trapped behind. My vision blurred, the room twisted. I was no longer alone. In the reflection of the vanity, I saw them, dozens, maybe hundreds, all of us, all the previous ones, the chosen, each of us a reflection, a prisoner, faces stretched and faded, some with missing eyes, others frozen mid-scream. One turned toward me. Her lips moved slowly. "We thought we escaped too," she whispered. Suddenly, the light in the room flickered. The boy screamed, a sound so raw, so primal, it cracked the edges of the photograph. Then silence, and she appeared again. The widow, her back to me, veil down, her hands covered in soil. She cradled something small, a music box. It opened, and that lullaby returned, sweet, broken, final. I realized then, this was never about her husband. This was about her loss, her grief so deep, so ravenous, it needed vessels, new ones. She didn't want her love back. She wanted us to suffer as she had, forever mourning, forever watching. And now the boy's face shimmered into the frame beside mine, pale and terrified. I could feel his panic like it was mine, because it was. We were part of her now, part of the house, part of the curse. And somewhere, another door creaked open.
The house grew louder with every soul it swallowed. The walls moaned under invisible pressure. The floorboards wept with cold dew, thick and red like aged wine. The windows no longer looked outside. They reflected only the inside, infinite corridors looping back into the same nightmare. I remained within the photograph, but I was changing. I could feel it in my fingertips, in the back of my throat, something inside me unraveling and twisting into her likeness. I wasn't just trapped. I was becoming the grief, the fury, the hunger. My memories blurred. My name echoed strangely, like a forgotten song played on a warped record. Then came the girl. This time she was older, a teenager with sharp eyes and trembling hands. She didn't come by accident. She was looking for something, someone. I could sense it in her stride. She walked the hallway with purpose, holding an old photograph, one that matched the frame I was imprisoned in, my photograph. Her fingers trembled as she clutched it. "Please," she whispered, "please be here." My mind flared with recognition. I knew her, my cousin, Emma. I tried to reach her. My reflection strained, my face twisted, but the glass held firm. Her voice cracked. "I know you came here. I know what this place does." She looked straight at my portrait. Our eyes met. For a second, the veil lifted. Hope surged through me. The curse wasn't complete, not yet, not with her here. But behind her, the widow moved, silent as fog, her veil flowing like smoke. Her fingers reached toward Emma's shoulder. I screamed with everything I had. The glass cracked. My hand jerked forward, barely. Emma turned, too late. The widow touched her, and the world went white. When the light faded, I wasn't in the frame anymore. I was on the floor of the room, gasping, alive. But something was wrong. Emma was gone, and on the wall where my photo once hung, there were now two frames. One of them was her. The house exhaled as I staggered to my feet, like it had just fed and was satisfied, for now. The two frames on the wall gleamed in the low light, and Emma's face stared back at me from inside the glass, frozen in that same expression of terror I had worn not long ago.
I couldn't look away. I reached for her frame, and as my fingers touched the glass, it felt warm, alive. Her lips inside the photo quivered, mouthing something I couldn't hear. I pressed my ear to it. A whisper slithered into my mind. It's not too late. Break the veil. Break the veil. The mirror on the vanity flickered, showing not my reflection, but an image of the widow pacing behind me. I spun around. Nothing. Only shadows. Only the distant ticking of a clock that wasn't there before. I turned back. The mirror now showed the hallway behind the door. Open. Inviting. The frames still shimmered, and the whispers in my head grew louder. Break the veil. What did it mean? I searched the room, drawers, boxes, every splintered board for something, anything. In the bottom of a rotting dresser, I found it. A small book wrapped in decayed fabric, its leather etched with the same symbols I had seen carved into the doors. I opened it. The writing was erratic, desperate, as if the ink had been scratched in blood. It spoke of the veiled communion, of rituals gone wrong, of souls imprisoned in echo. One passage was underlined over and over. A soul must willingly shatter the tether. Only blood given in love can unbind the veil. My hands trembled. Willingly. Love. Emma. I looked back at her frame. Her eyes were moving now. Tears inside glass. She was still conscious, still herself. For now. I tore the edge of the book and sliced my palm with it. Blood pooled and dripped down my fingers. I pressed my palm against her photo. The glass hissed, burning my skin, and the frame cracked. A howl erupted from somewhere deep in the house. The widow. Furious. The walls began to shake. The ceiling groaned. She was coming. I kept pressing, my vision blurred, my legs buckled. Just before I blacked out, I heard it, a shattering sound, like ice breaking on a lake. Then silence.
I woke to find Emma beside me, coughing, alive. The frames were gone. So was the music box. So was the light. We were alone. The house was quiet. Too quiet. We ran. No whispers followed. No shadows moved. The door opened with ease. The outside air hit us like a rebirth. We didn't speak until we reached the street, and even then, all I could say was, "Don't ever look back." But I did, one last time. The window was no longer cracked, but behind the glass I saw her, watching, smiling, and now behind her dozens of empty frames waiting to be filled. The days that followed were hollow. Emma and I didn't speak about what happened. We couldn't. Every time I tried, my mouth dried, my chest tightened. I'd see her flinch whenever she passed a mirror or a dark window. Our parents thought we were just shaken. They couldn't understand. How could they? The house across the street stood as still as ever, unchanged, untouched. But we knew better. We could feel it, a coldness leaking from its frame, a weight in the air that hadn't been there before. I started dreaming of her again. Not nightmares, not screams, just her, standing still in an endless field of frames, each one showing someone new, a teacher, a mailman, a child. And in every dream she looked at me, not with malice, with patience, as if waiting. Then the frames would begin to glow, one by one, and the whispers would start again. It's not over. It never ends. One morning, Emma didn't come down for breakfast. I found her in her room, sitting at her desk, staring blankly into a mirror. Her eyes were bloodshot, her lips moving soundlessly. I touched her shoulder. She didn't flinch. She only whispered,
She's calling. I looked at the mirror and saw it too, just for a flicker. Her veil, her eyes, that smile. I smashed the glass, but it was too late. The whisper had already rooted itself. I knew what she was doing, laying seeds, spreading her curse, frame by frame, person by person. The house didn't need to pull people in anymore. It was sending her out, through mirrors, through photographs, through memory. We had broken her ritual, yes, but in doing so, we had loosened her chains. She wasn't bound to the house anymore. She was bound to us, and wherever reflection could find a place to hide, she'd be watching, waiting, growing stronger. Emma began drawing again. All she drew were frames, hundreds of them, each one with a face inside. Some we knew, some we didn't, some that hadn't yet appeared in the world. I tried burning the sketches. They reappeared by morning. The house may have stayed still, but the widow, she was moving, and we were the first of many who'd carry her with us. We weren't survivors, we were carriers. And sooner or later, someone else would look into the glass and see her smile back. It started with Emma's eyes. One morning I caught her staring too long at the chrome surface, her reflection distorted in the metal curve. She blinked too slowly, like she wasn't seeing herself anymore. That evening, our dog refused to enter her room. He whimpered at the threshold, tail tucked between his legs, eyes wide with primal fear. And then came the drawings, more detailed, more frantic. Not just frames anymore, but rooms, hallways, the house. It was rebuilding itself through her hands, piece by piece. She wasn't just remembering, she was becoming. I confronted her in the middle of the night. Her door creaked open like it had in the widow's house. Emma sat on the floor, surrounded by sketches, eyes black in the moonlight. She looked up at me with that same patient smile I'd seen in my dreams. She's not outside anymore. She's inside. And she's so lonely. I backed away. I should have run. I should have screamed, but I didn't. I stayed, because I felt it too, a pulling inside my chest, a yearning I didn't understand.
That night, I dreamed of the widow again, but this time she didn't watch. She spoke. "You broke the frame," she said, her voice soft like wind through dead trees. "Now I live in memory. I live in blood." I woke with a nosebleed, the pillow soaked crimson. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, a photo of me. But I was smiling in that same eerie way, standing in front of the house, though I hadn't left my bed. I deleted the message. It returned within seconds, over and over, until the screen cracked in my hand. I told myself I was losing my mind. But Emma, she didn't deny it anymore. She welcomed it. One afternoon, I found her whispering into the bathroom mirror, reciting that lullaby in reverse. Her eyes rolled back, her voice layered, hers and something older beneath it. I smashed the mirror. She didn't blink. She just turned to me and said, "She's almost ready." That night the power went out. All the windows reflected candlelight, though no candles burned. Every mirror shimmered like water, and in every surface her face hovered, multiplying, smiling, waiting. The house didn't just belong to her anymore. She belonged to everything that reflected, every glossy surface, every shadow that mimicked shape. We had opened a door,
And it wasn't just Emma carrying her. It was all of us who remembered her face, who heard her song, who dared to look too long. The widow had escaped, and now the world was her frame. It didn't happen all at once. At first, it was subtle. A coworker at school who started humming the lullaby without realizing. A neighbor who began sketching ornate, unfamiliar symbols in chalk on the sidewalk. Then came the reports. People missing after visiting antique stores, abandoned houses, old estate sales. And always, a mirror left cracked somewhere behind. Emma stopped speaking entirely. Her eyes turned glassy, vacant but aware. She walked through our house like she was mapping it for someone else, whispering beneath her breath, her fingers brushing along the walls as if reading Braille written by ghosts. One night I found her staring into a bowl of water, the surface rippling with reflections that didn't match our movements. In the water I saw people, strangers, screaming silently behind the glass. I pulled her away. She didn't resist, but she smiled, that same patient smile. I knew then we couldn't run. There was nowhere to run to. The widow wasn't hunting anymore. She was harvesting. Collecting those who remembered her, who carried her image in their mind like an infection. Every time someone looked into a screen, a reflection, a still pool of water, they were inviting her in. Every time someone listened to the lullaby, even hummed the first few notes, she grew stronger. She was becoming an echo, too loud to ignore. So I did what I thought was the only thing left. I returned to the house. I found it untouched, the door still ajar, as if waiting. The air was thick with rot and memory. I stepped through, and the frames greeted me from the walls, faces I didn't recognize staring out with vacant eyes. Some cried, some grinned, some banged their fists against the glass. I followed the hallway to the room. The music box sat there, closed now, but humming from within. I picked it up. My hand burned. I turned the key, slowly, deliberately. The music began, and behind me, the widow whispered, "Thank you." I turned and saw her, not as a ghost, not as a horror, but as grief itself, wearing a veil of skin and silence. She raised a hand, and I didn't flinch. I stepped forward, knowing what I had to do. I opened the frame that bore my face, climbed inside. The moment I did, I felt her pause. The humming stopped, and for the first time, she looked confused. Her hand trembled. The light flickered, because this time I had brought something with me. A match. I struck it. The flame erupted in the frame, and with it the glass began to crack. Not just mine, but every frame in the room. One by one, they shattered, the souls inside screaming their way back into the world. The widow shrieked, her form splitting, unraveling, her scream bending the walls. I held the match close until the wood touched my fingers and pain shot up my arm. Then, silence. I woke up outside, smoke behind me, ash falling like snow. Emma beside me, breathing. The house was gone, or at least what it had been, but when I passed a storefront window weeks later, I saw something move behind my reflection. A flicker, a veil, a grin. She may be gone from that house, but echoes have long memories. And sometimes, late at night, when the world is still and every screen in the house is dark, I hear the first few notes of a lullaby I never sang. I don't hum it back, but part of me wants to.